A judge calls an elected official a flight risk, then lets her go anyway. It's a hot day, hotter in certain neighborhoods because of the choices we've made. The sign says Democrats for Heidi. We recognize the woman holding it as a Republican candidate for office. A Coloradan turns wood charred by fire into something beautiful. His art has given him beautiful years of sobriety. And if the world has you feeling down, we have a momentary antidote. Hearing someone else's good news.
My good news is we're getting a new house and a new puppy.
Let's hope there's a lot of it. It's been a long week, but this is Friday, and this is next. An emergency alert's telling people near the Cameron Peak burn scar they need to head for higher ground right now. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office is warning of some dangerous flooding that's happening near Crystal Mountain and Wild Song. I want to bring in meteorologist Danielle Grant. Danielle, that is the constant danger there along that burn scar and others, and we knew the rain was coming for them.
Heavy rain, Kyle, and it's been going for about the past hour and a half now. A radar indicated about 1 inch to 2 inches within that time frame. The majority of the rain now shifting to the northeast of the flash flood warning area around the Cameron Peak burn scar, but still, we're going to be monitoring this until about 8 o'clock. You'll notice there are still some scattered showers around that area, so we will be keeping a close eye on this. Like I said, the rainfall coming through here easily 1.5 inches to 2 inches stacking up. Again, this is just radar indicated, but we have heard from emergency managers that the roads out there are impassable. It's a Friday night. You think about folks maybe getting a jump start on the weekend. People that are camping, recreating, trying to have a good time out there are faced with this. And unfortunately, this is the scenario that we're watching as we're tapping back into the monsoon. Those slow-moving thunderstorms that are shifting in from the southwest are just kind of parked over our burn scar locations, and they once again will bring in a lot of water, which would be nice to see, but just too much of a good thing all at once. The flash flood alerts are still in place. They'll continue until about 10 o'clock for not just the Cameron Peak burn scar, East Troublesome, Williams Forks, the Calwood, the Mullen burn scars, and then a flood watch going for much of the western slope too, Kyle. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the radar for you tonight, really throughout the next couple of hours when we have that window for seeing the heaviest rainfall coming through.
Just looking at this alert from Larimer County. Danielle, thank you very much. Again, they're saying Crystal Mountain to Wild Song is the area, telling people to get to higher ground by any means necessary, warning them that the road may not be intact under the water up there. This is the kind of day that has really worried emergency managers in Larimer County, and this particular scenario, flash flooding in the areas that burned in 2020. That's the reason why they have been asking people who live or go up to play near the Cameron Peak burn scar how often they want to get warned about the potential flooding danger. The thought is overwhelm people with too many warnings and people might tune out the big one. If you live in that area or you go up there a lot and you have signed up for Larimer County's opt-in alert system, they are not going to tell you every time that there is a flash flood warning. They will send you an alert in the situation like today's when it's imperative that you get to higher ground immediately. If you want those earlier alerts when there is a chance of flooding but no flooding happening, then you actually need to sign up for a new set of text alerts. Larimer County's 911 authority says the goal is to let people choose how much they want to hear from them. So it's important to know what your choices mean.
We have a lot of different layers, so we're not inundating people by phoning them at 2 a.m. for an awareness situation. And if we're going to phone them at 2 a.m., it's going to be something that requires their immediate action.
County's 911 authority says only 112 people are signed up for the flash flood text right now, the more comprehensive alerts. If you live in an area with flash flood risk, all those areas that Danielle was talking about up there, or maybe you visit up there often to hike or raft or camp, the county asks you to consider to sign up. If you text FLOOD 2020 to 888-777, you'll get those texts from Larimer County every time there's a flash flood warning. Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters is a flight risk. The judge said it himself today in court, a flight risk who happens to have access to a private jet. Yet the judge decided Peters should not go back to jail for violating her bond by traveling out of state without permission. The Republican county clerk dodged any consequences for heading off to Las Vegas for an election deniers conference while she's on bond for felony charges of tampering with voting equipment. Peters has quite the legal team, including former Republican Secretary of State Scott Gessler and high-profile criminal defense attorney Harvey Steinberg, who today told the court it was his fault that Peters traveled without permission. When the judge asked Steinberg, his legal staff, and the rest of the legal team how in the world they missed the order telling Peters not to travel, Harvey Steinberg said he was, quote, not computer literate. The judge said that his general practice in his courtroom is to give second chances. We ran the idea of second chances by Ann Rohn, the training director for Colorado's public defenders.
The important question to ask is who gets second chances on this kind of situation and who doesn't. Many people who are too poor to hire private counsel are certainly too poor to have access to private jets, or even, Southwest Airlines don't receive the same kind of consideration when they ignore a judge's order.
Clerk Peters walked out of court free today, free to travel again out of state if she wants. Next time she's supposed to get permission. So Peters got caught out of state because she sent a letter to the Colorado Secretary of State's office demanding a recount, alleging fraud in her Secretary of State primary. And the letter was notarized in Nevada. That's how she got caught. Peters and U.S. Senate candidate Ron Hanks, another election conspiracy theorist, had until today to pay up if they wanted to fund a recount. They didn't pay. If a statewide race is close, the state will pay for the recount. If you lose big, but you still want a recount, you can have one, you just have to pay for it. Hanks and Peters faced a bill of $236,000, due at 5 today. That was more money than Peters raised in her whole race, where she lost to Pam Anderson by more than 88,000 votes. More money than Hanks raised in his losing Senate primary effort against Joe O'Dea, where he fell short by 57,000 votes. Having enough trees make a big difference on a hot day like today. Yet we know that vulnerable communities in Colorado don't have as many trees to protect them as the city warms around them. We also found out some of the newest trees being planted aren't necessarily going where they're needed the most. Arnusha Roy looks at why.
When Green Spaces took over this space, its mission was transformation, combining a co-working space,
providing affordable space for local artists and local entrepreneurs.
CEO Javon Taylor says that transformation includes the outside of the building, where they're adding in trees and greenery.
Small business could be like the glue of communities.
The lack of tree canopy is indicative of a problem across the city, particularly in lower income, predominantly minority neighborhoods that make up more than half of all acreage in Denver, but only 29% of tree canopy. Meanwhile, 65% of Denver's neighborhoods are majority white. Depending on how many trees, it can cool a neighborhood down 10 to 20 degrees.
Very, very common in cities across the U.S.
It's more than just shade, according to CSU professor Scott Denning. Leaves can also absorb pollution and help control heat through evaporation.
Sap, the water that's in the plant, in the little tubes that are going, out through the leaves, evaporates out to the atmosphere, and that's heat that doesn't warm the air.
But the reason there's a tree canopy disparity,
everybody knows that 5 Points has been redlined,
is connected to a history of inequities.
Disinvestment in those communities.
9 News data producer Zach Newman found that in the last 2 years, while many trees did go to neighborhoods that needed them, most, 71%, went into majority white neighborhoods. We asked the city parks department why, and they said part of the reason is there's a program where people can request free trees, and based on who asked, the city said a lot of those trees ended up in predominantly white neighborhoods. Another barrier is the cost of maintaining the tree. Now there are different programs, including Downtown Denver Partnership,
improving the planting areas of 400 trees.
The city partnering with communities in Westwood and Globeville, Elaria, Swansea.
Planting 350 trees, each of those organizations, 350 trees over the next each year over the next 3 years.
Along with the Parks Department, planting more trees in more vulnerable neighborhoods while also rotating through different quadrants of the city, hoping to both increase and even out where we find tree canopy.
And then you have businesses like Green Space that's having to do things on their own. Javon said because of all of the development in that area of Rhino, it's no longer considered a vulnerable neighborhood, so it's harder for them to get city funding. So they have had to go after private dollars to be able to kind of rework the front of their building, and then they hope other businesses, which they're saying are interested, will be doing the same.
And it's not just as simple as like, oh, any tree anywhere, because of course we're in a drought, so some trees are going to do better than others, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so much more than just the money behind it too, right? You have to be sensitive to what is our landscape, what tree is going to survive here. And then again, like you said, sensitive to the fact that we're worried about water shortages too.
Anusha, thank you. Republican candidate for governor Heidi Ganahl's rolling out a Democrats for Heidi coalition. We recognized a woman front and center at the event holding a Democrats for Heidi sign. She was recently a Republican candidate for the state legislature. The sign says Democrats for Heidi, But our eyes tell us the woman holding the sign is Republican State Senate candidate Lynn Gerber from Jefferson County. Voter records show Gerber is still a registered Republican.
Lynn Gerber, and there's hope for Boulder, Colorado. Born and raised conservative.
In 2020, she was part of a far-right slate of candidates who signed pledges to the group FEC United. She spoke at this FEC United candidate event, which also featured the head of the group's affiliated militia wing. The Ganal campaign says Gerber is a Ganal supporter who was there for the Democrats for Heidi event, but is not part of the Democrats group. The Ganal campaign today released a semi-anonymous list of endorsements from 27 Democrats. Each person was listed by first name, last initial, and their home county. I checked in with our political reporter Marshall Zellinger to see if he had ever heard of a candidate announcing anonymous endorsements. Neither of us ever have. Really appreciate what you have decided to do as a community this week to support young adults in Colorado diagnosed with cancer. Together, you have raised more than $20,000 to help grant wishes from their life lists. Often it's something about establishing their career, finishing their education, perhaps doing family planning, now complicated by cancer. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week is for the Dear Jack Foundation, based in Littleton. They pick up at age 19, where Make-A-Wish leaves off. If you scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, you can get in on this week's goodness we're doing in the community. Young adults tell the nonprofit that they feel left out because they're outside of the support systems for kids with cancer, and they're far younger than most Americans who get diagnosed at an older age. So Dear Jack tries to meet them where they are, with retreats and with resources, but specifically this Life List program that grants wishes for things that might otherwise slip through the cracks when these young adults also have their health to worry about. Thank you for what you're doing to support them. And for this week's good news, we combine our Friday tradition with the sounds of summer. Next. The town of Springfield down south has kind of a Wild West vibe going on after every police officer there resigned this week. 2 officers and a chief out. The Baca County Sheriff says they'll add that town of about 1,400 people to their regular patrols. The sheriff's statement on this reads like a dare. Quote, "We also want to make this message very clear to anyone thinking this is an opportune time to commit crimes or victimize anyone in Baca County. You are free to test that assumption at your convenience. However, we will warn you the community's fed up with it. Law enforcement will be here in force. They will exhaust every resource at their disposal in finding you. The lights are always on at the Baca County Jail, and we still have a few bunks available." That was something. The town's mayor says the mass resignation is not some funny business. The chief resigned for personal reasons, and the other 2 got different jobs. The Colorado Sun reports that the town had removed a previous chief in Springfield for unprofessional behavior and settled claims against another officer for alleged misconduct. For 20 years, there's a guy in Arvada who has been turning scrap wood into art. Now, he's found a new muse. It's wood burned in wildfires. Our photojournalist Brian Wendland caught up with him.
You start spinning and the wood kind of tells you what's going to happen.
When Robert Neslatic finds something ugly, he imagines the beauty he can bring out of it.
I've always said that I'm trying to find a vase that's going to have the face of Jesus on it or something. You know, something really, really weird.
It's a talent he's honed over the past 2 decades. A skill he picked up after putting down the bottle.
Whenever you're in recovery or starting over like that, you have to find something to occupy not only your mind, but your hands. You got to keep your hands busy all the time.
Robert's busy hands have made bowls, vases, and even urns. Lately, he's taken things a bit further, using wood burned in a wildfire in Alamosa.
You're taking something that's so destructive, you know, a wildfire, and actually making something that's, you know, going to turn out nice for people. It just soaks this stain up.
Fire leaves beauty beneath the charred bark.
It gets that charcoal color in there and some light blues.
It's been 20 years since Robert's first piece, but there's always more to learn and always more beauty to uncover.
It's an addiction, like anything, you know, but it's a good addiction. It's not destructive like I was doing. It's something that actually turns out good when you're finished.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
Each Friday, we make time for the headlines of your life, your answers to the simplest question: what's your good news? That's next.
I'm still keeping my eye on that flash flood warning positioned in central Larimer County. The heaviest rain showers now shifting off to the north and to the east. We're still monitoring any kind of light showers back behind this that could potentially be impacting them, but it does look like another about hour and a half or so until that flash flood warning should expire. Back here in the metro area, just some really light rain showers, a line of stronger storms, a few more lightning strikes tracking around Flagler all the way up, stretching around Fort Morgan. Everything shifting to the north and to the east, but still a pretty active night, especially if you're up in the mountains. Treated to quite the light show around the Vail Valley and even around Durango through Pagosa Springs. The San Juan's looking at some thunderstorms moving through. Just back behind downtown Denver, quite the sight to see with those ominous skies. We're watching the radar and everything kind of moving out by early tomorrow morning. Some sunshine to kick off your day. The storms will be a lot more isolated for us tomorrow and primarily staying to the south of I-72. Maybe one or two quick thunderstorms here in the metro area, but temperatures actually are going to be on the cooler side, relatively speaking, but triple digits coming our way early next week.
This was a pool day. I mean, this was a pool week is what it was. So that's where our photojournalist Tom Cole went for a dip to find your good news.
We love coming to the pool. We love being in the water. We love to cool off, and we love this neighborhood pool.
My good news is I lost 5 teeth and I have 3 loose too.
What happens if you lose one in the water?
Oh, well, I don't know if they float or sink, so.
This is Oscar. We call him Oski Boski, and our good news is that today is the first time he gets to use his My Denver card because he just turned 5 years old.
My good news is we're getting a new house and a new puppy.
My good news is I'm with my family for the first time in the year, and we're here to celebrate a baby shower for our daughter Emily, who's going to be delivering our granddaughter in the next 3 weeks.
My good news is God is good.
He went #1 in the potty himself, so he's, out of diapers, wearing big boy pants.
That's good news.
Oh, that's good news. Are you kidding me?
My good news is that me and my brother Remy, we sell bracelets with my neighbor.
Say Good News Friday.
Good News Friday.
Say I went pee-pee in the potty.
I went pee-pee in the potty.
6 years, your good news. That's a first. Your thoughts close out the week. Your feedback's next. Bill Kellstrom writes in tonight to say your bit about the racist trees is an example of absurd reporting. Bill, of course, nobody said that trees are racist. What we're talking about is why do cities choose to plant trees in some neighborhoods and not in other neighborhoods? Think about it this way. Bill, does your neighborhood have shade trees in the public right-of-way? Why is that? Why do some other neighborhoods not have trees planted in the public right-of-way? See you next time.